Hi everyone, my name is Davood Gozli. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I would like to talk with you about a book by Colleen Hoover titled It Ends With Us. One common misunderstanding of my YouTube channel is that when I talk about a book, it automatically means that I am recommending the book. That is not the case. It's not always the case. And it certainly is not the case with this book. In fact, I would go so far as to say if you have serious interest in literature, in literary fiction, then you probably should not read this book. And if you do, you might think that it is a waste of your time. Maybe at a later point we can talk about that reason, general reason that why serious readers of literature develop a kind of taste that, and what is that taste about that then is kind of turning against these popular works. So if you're interested in literature, this is not a book for you. But if you are interested in popular culture, in understanding popular culture, if you're interested in understanding how a huge part of the English-speaking world uses language, how they think, feel, judge, and how all of that is reflected in popular use of language, then if you're interested in that, in those, then best-selling books would give you a window into that world. Colleen Hoover is obviously an extremely popular author. At the time that I'm recording this video, if you take a quick look at the New York Times bestsellers of fiction, 1/3 of that list consists of her work. So out of the 15 titles, 5 of them are written by Colleen Hoover. The book that this video is about has been on the list for 80 weeks, 80. Of course, popularity does not necessarily mean an author is influential in shaping our taste in anything having to do with beauty. It doesn't mean that she is determining our taste and our choices. Popularity could also suggest that the author's work is reflecting the current state of the culture, or that it is resonating with what is already happening in our world. And through that reflection or through that resonance, the work intensifies certain aspects of the culture and brings those aspects into focus. It makes them easier to see. And that, by the way, I think is related to the love-hate relationship, the love and, the positive and the negative responses directed at Hoover's work on social media platforms, TikTok, YouTube. We should think of that love-hate as the culture's response to itself, our culture's love-hate relationship with parts of itself, how it is comfortable or uncomfortable, satisfied, unsatisfied with what is going on. It's a very circular, in my view, it's a very circular relationship. It is not that people just hate an author. It's not as simple. Let's turn to the book after that long introduction. It Ends With Us. I want to talk about a couple of what I take to be redeeming qualities of the book. As difficult as it is to read her style of writing, as difficult, as painful as it is, for me anyways, as painful as it is to look at or see, engage with the worldview she expresses in the story and through her characters, the things she takes for granted about relationships, about the culture of achievement and hustling, and how she thinks about success. There are, as much as those are difficult, and I'm also not a fan of her character development or failures of character development. I also do not enjoy how the narrative resembles an adventure video game. So what do I mean by a story reads like an adventure, a video game, essentially? Why? Because it is excessively simplistic, and it has all these far-fetched coincidences in it that just very video gamey. As much as I don't like all of those qualities of the book, I do believe that there are redeeming qualities in the book. The first is Hoover's exploration of the theme of the unfinished past, which I believe is an extremely important human theme. It is the theme that highlights. It's about how our past, our personal history, and the history of our communities, they are not finished. They are not closed. They are open. So my biography, the history of my life, the history of your life, the history of your relationships, they are not closed like closed cases and shelved in archives of history. They are open. They're open to reinterpretation, open to revision, and you can engage with them and discover new things with them, in them, and with them. And you can kind of engage in a dialogue between what is happening in the present and what has happened apparently in the past. And we can realize through that examination how the past lives within the present and repeats itself. If you're more interested in like a more technical discussion of that, I have a video about an essay by Freud on repetition, on unconscious repetition of our behaviors. Because the past is not finished, is not done, you can make a decision now and enter into a new relationship with the past events of your life. If there's a conflict, for example, if there's a conflict between your siblings on the one hand, or one sibling, and your spouse on the other hand, or your family and your spouse, you decide to take sides with your spouse, and you could turn to all your past arguments and fights with your family, with your siblings, and say, I always knew they were jerks. And look at all those memories, all those past events. Those are all indications that they were always jerks. So see, you're doing something with the past, and you're establishing a relationship between now, what is happening now, your position within your life now, and in your relationships, and the history. You're recruiting the past to give form to an ongoing and current story. There are also moments in the book that are quite good. One moment, briefly, let's describe this moment briefly. The main hero or heroine, our heroine Lily, her name is Lily, and another main character named Atlas. There's a moment where they are sitting in the garden. They are teenagers at this point, and she looks at him in silence and suddenly realizes that he is her friend. Very simple moment, but I found it to be profound and moving. Even though it is not described very well, but I kind of get the kind of moment she's referring to through that imperfect description. She looks at him and realizes that he's my friend. And not only that, but he is her only friend. She realizes that this boy, is her only friend. And she begins to realize that her family life, the structure of the dynamic of her family, the hidden dysfunctions of her family, these dysfunctions that had to be hidden from the public eye, had prevented her up to that point from having close friends. And through a series of accidents, these two, Lily and Atlas, ended up being friends through very unlikely events. Another moment, here, this is years later, she's an adult, she's in a relationship, which happens to be an abusive relationship with occasional violent episodes directed at her. So here, Lily, our central character, crosses the threshold. After 3 episodes of domestic violence, she crosses the threshold and makes that decision that she is living in an abusive relationship. She's living with an abusive partner. So she was on the fence about that, and she now at this point, she admits that for the first time, fully admits that. Now, once she has made that decision, she now decides that she should reach out and tell someone about this, because this kind of truth needs to be recognized and needs to be confirmed through and within our relationship through the perspective of other people who are supportive of you. At that moment, you need that kind of, anybody would need that kind of social support, a supportive bond with somebody outside of that relationship. So she begins to search. She searches in her mind and through her contact list. Imagine she's going through contact list on her phone, and realizes quickly how hard it is to say what she needs to say to anyone. She considers people one by one and dismisses them, like, no, she's not in a right state. She's not ready to see this. She wouldn't react well. He wouldn't understand, so on and so forth. And she's also too invested in the image of their happy life, the image of their happy marriage, happy relationship. And that image is not isolated. This is why this moment is one of those redeeming qualities, because you realize with her that this image that she's maintaining of a happy life, happy relationship with her partner, it is connected to lots of other things. And by maintaining that image, she's helping to maintain other relationships, helping to maintain the overall peace and stability of an entire social ecosystem. I mean, not an entire, but it's a little ecosystem, but it is more than just one relationship. And not wanting to upset that stability is a huge obstacle against expressing the truth about what she's going through. Okay, so another theme, I know I've lost by this point, I've lost most of the viewers, but I have more to say about the book. Another theme has to do with this dichotomy between dominant narratives and hidden narratives. So we have narratives that are very visible, dominant, everybody agrees on them, about them. And we have hidden narratives. There's a dominant, and the example is that there's a dominant publicly recognized narrative about a happy couple. And then there are skeletons in the closet. There's a hidden narrative of unreliability, unpredictability, violence, and destructiveness, which is not fully recognized at first. Lily wishes she could erase the violent episodes, or she just wishes that so badly to be able to convince herself that they're just accidents. Maybe she just fell. Maybe he didn't mean to hit her. Somehow she needs to explain to hold on to that dominant narrative. In relation to that, she is struck by how brief the violent episodes are. She thinks to herself, wow, that only took 15 seconds. And everything changed in that 15, everything seemed to change in that 15 seconds after the first episode of domestic violence in her life, in her relationship. Another time, she's referring to how everything happened within a few hours, and that's it. So she's looking at the narrow window of time in which the dominant narrative was challenged by the intrusion of these pieces of action that were completely incompatible with the dominant narrative, forcing her to decide what she wants to do with these episodes. Either keep the dominant narrative, try to lie to herself, to other people, do something that her mother also did successfully, almost successfully, or to revise and reject the dominant narrative and try to embrace and admit and reveal the hidden narrative. They talk about the characters, two of the characters in the book talk about so-called naked truths. They kind of have this game that I tell you a naked truth and then in turn you give me a naked truth. If you think about it, naked truths are not as important as concealed truths. It is the hidden truth that is important and needs you to stand up for it and defend it. It is that veiled truth that, or the hidden truth, or the hidden narrative that is challenging what everybody already knows. It is easy to say the naked truth because it's visible. It is the consensus, right? It is the status quo. And we could see how the theme of dominant narratives and the hidden narratives applies not just to relationships but also to communities, to societies. You can have the tension between the marginal groups and their hidden narratives and the dominant narratives, for example, at the level of society. The book overall is in some ways interesting. It has interesting and redeeming qualities. As I said, again, I wouldn't recommend it myself, but I'm glad that I read it, and I'd like to ask you whether or not you can respond to this question, whether or not you have read the book yourself. First, what do you think about the popularity of books? And in general, and in particular, the popularity of this book, this kind of book. Second, do you agree with my assessment, especially about the good qualities of the book? Do you think I'm being too charitable, or do you think I'm not being charitable enough to the book? Do you think I should be even more open-minded and love the book more, have higher esteem, hold the book in higher esteem? I don't know, maybe I'm too old for the book to be able to appreciate the book. Even a book like The Catcher in the Rye, when I read that, I felt like I'm too old for that book. I was 26 at the time. I think I was 26 or older. And when I read it, I realized, okay, this is past. My life has passed the stage where I I could appreciate the book, or I would be able to appreciate the book. Anyways, if you're interested, this is now I'm done with the book. If you're interested, I host a reading group that meets every other weekend at the moment. It's a book club that meets online twice a month. The schedule and the texts for the next couple of months are available through the link in the descriptions of the video. If you like this video, please press like and subscribe buttons. Check out my other videos if you're curious, and consider joining my little Patreon community. Otherwise, take care, and I look forward to speaking with you in future videos. Thank you.